Some people go their entire lives never realizing that God intended for them to be something more than their current circumstance and situation. Because all they've known and all they've ever seen is the hood, is the streets, is dad knocking out mom sleeping around on dad. All they've ever seen is dysfunction, and they don't realize that there was something greater that God intended for them. So these people hear for the first time, some of them in their lives, the legacy of what God had done for the people of Israel. They find out that they weren't always intended to be an exiled people, that they weren't always supposed to be displaced and downtrodden, that they could have been or should have been a chosen generation, royal priesthood, the banner carriers of an almighty God. Yes. So they wept over a destiny that was forfeited by generations past. Anybody ever been born into some jacked up situations? Anybody ever look back and realize, I didn't even ask for any of this. This is just how I got here, and I didn't ask to be here. And if they would have done right, I wouldn't have to deal with the mess I'm dealing with. I wouldn't have had the pain that I've had to deal with my life. Everything that I've experienced in my life has been a product of some mess that somebody else did before I even got here. And now I find out that it didn't have to be that way. The anger, the emotion, the emotional content. So it's not just, we broke this law, we broke that law, God's matters. There's a lot more being communicated and transmitted as the law is being read to their people. Amidst this sadness, Ezra and Nehemiah and the Levite priesthood that had been ministering to the people had to explain to them that this was not an occasion for mourning. Rather, it was a time for celebration because the joy of the Lord is their strength. Their moment of emotional crisis was also a moment of celestial celebration. Think about the disconnect there. I'm mourning, I'm hurting, I'm in pain, I am uncomfortable, I am disquieted, I am grieving, and heaven is celebrating. And heaven's not celebrating because I'm in pain, but there's something larger going on than my momentary discomfort. There's something bigger transpiring here than just what I'm feeling at that time. A lot of us get so caught up in our grief, in our regret, in our circumstances that we have a hard time ever taking the time to take a look at the big picture and wonder how God is looking at this. I'm in pain. God must not be happy. I'm uncomfortable, but there are bigger things going on. Yes, he sees. Yes, he knows. Yes, he cares, but he has a bigger concern for you than what is taking place at the moment. This was a time of the Festival of Tabernacles, marking the end of the harvest and the beginning of a new agricultural year. This particular new year was marked by a reclamation of identity for a displaced generation. They came to reclaim who they were supposed to be before everything went sideways. And even though it was painful for them to find out everything that they had endured and find out that there was more to who they were supposed to be, even though they were in a state of crisis, God was celebrating because they were beginning to find out who they actually were. God was excited because they were beginning to come back to a place of restored worship and relationship with him. They came to know the truth of God in themselves, and to God, this was cause for joy. The difference between celestial celebration and earthly commiseration often comes from the difference between our perspective and a divine perspective that sees a greater good being worked through the discomfort that we are momentarily experiencing. Whereas they lamented the loss of the past, God was joyful over the restoration of their present and the potential of their future. I want you to understand that it does not matter how messed up the past is, and it does not matter how dysfunctional the present is. When you find yourself coming to reassociate yourself with God and restore yourself to a place of worship, God becomes excited because all of a sudden your future has new possibilities that you can find yourself walking in. Yes. All of a sudden you can find yourself walking in a destiny that you never imagined possible, that previous to having heard his word, previous to having heard about his love, about his interactions, that you never thought that your life could go. You accepted, you thought that the way things are is just the way things are going to be. And then you find out that you serve a God who loves you, that never actually intended you to be in that circumstance, never intended you to be mistreated the way you've been mistreated, never intended you to be disrespected the way you've been disrespected. And sometimes, I'll tell you, sometimes it will send people to tears. You take somebody who is in the midst of a crisis, in the midst of a personal crisis, and sit them and you ask them how they think God sees them, and they'll give you an answer. And you ask them, what if I were to tell you that if God were sitting in that corner, he would say, this is my child, I love them, I am proud of them, I'm not ashamed of them. And you would be amazed how many people stop and cry because of the disconnect.
Yes.
But Nehemiah and the Levites had to explain that this is a cause for celebration. And so the people went away to eat and drink at the festive meal, to share the gifts of food, and to celebrate with great joy because they had heard God's words and understood them. So here's the joy of the Lord. This is the joy of the Lord, that lost identities were being reclaimed, people that had been displaced were being restored, and a relationship that had been abandoned was being resurrected. The joy of the Lord was to see his people become better as they moved towards what he intended to them from the beginning. The thing that had God excited was to see his people positioned to start walking in destiny.